Welcome to Oblivion Remastered. It's a game full of sensational character building features that make every playthrough feel distinct and unique from the beginning. Attributes, classes, potent race passives and powers, and of course choosing a birth sign. Some of these birth signs provide you with seriously game-changing benefits, like the Atronach sign that grants you a massive 150 more points of Magicka and 50% spell absorption at the beginning of the game, with the drawback being that you can't regenerate Magicka at all. It's amazing for a sorcerer build like the one we released not long ago. Now, you may have heard that in Oblivion these chosen birth signs are fixed and used in place of the standing stone system that featured in Skyrim. Well, what if I told you that you can choose both? That you can have a birth sign and a stone, and they don't even have to be matching. Many magical stones are hiding around Cyrodiil without map markers to show you where they are. You may have encountered some already, like the rune stones that bestow you with a bound piece of armor and a bound weapon. Well, there are also Doomstones, one representing each birth sign, each granting a unique power, sometimes two, that you'll be able to use alongside your unchangeable birth sign powers. They can be completely different as well, so you can be born under the Mage sign and choose the Steed stone. If you try to access the power from one of these stones outside the hours between 6 PM and 6 AM, a message will say, "No stars shine upon the Doomstone." While some of these powers are very useful, others aren't as worth it, so I'll share my thoughts on each as I tell you how to uncover them for your build. Only one can be used at a time. On top of this, there are other magical stones referred to as Heavenly Doomstones, also hidden around the map with no map markers. These also bestow you with special greater powers, and very interestingly, you can collect them all instead of choosing just one like with the birth sign related stones. These Heavenly Doomstones do have specific Renown requirements, which I'll explain, along with a handy tip on how to unlock them much faster. The Apprentice stone can be found southwest of Skingrad, just over here on the map, and clearly not very far from the city itself. Using the stone in the hours between 6 PM and 6 AM, you will be granted the Void Seed Greater Power to fortify illusion and alchemy by 20 points for 120 seconds once per day. Do keep in mind that all these greater powers, as they are called, are for once a day use, though they can be used easily by any build as they cost 0 Magicka to cast. As you'd expect, the Void Seed power would help to reduce the casting cost of illusion spells, helping out any puppeteer builds. Just remember though that it won't grant you access to spells outside of your actual skill rank. If you're crafting potions, then the Fortify Alchemy effect will help you to craft better ones as well, which you might want to use right before you create a giant batch of your favorite concoctions, or even just to increase their value for when you go to sell them all. However, something to keep in mind here is that illusion and alchemy can't be boosted past 100 in a way that actually impacts gameplay, and therefore this isn't the best stone for an endgame character. Of course, it's very easy to access early, though all these Doomstones are, and outside of niche builds who desire these specific effects, I do believe there are much better options to choose from. One such option is the Atronach stone, a classic Fudge Muppet choice in Skyrim if you've been watching our Elder Scrolls content for years. In the land of Cyrodiil, you'll be able to find this Doomstone northeast of Kvatch and south of Talwynquay, here on the map. This stone provides the Arcane Well power to gain a massive 30% spell absorption for 120 seconds, as well as a 10-point boost to your intelligence attribute. Unlike most skills that cannot surpass 100 in effect, attributes often can, at least to some extent, so this plus 10 to intelligence can be used on any character to increase your total Magicka pool. The star of the show here is of course the spell absorption. 30% is a massive help, even if you're not using the Atronach sign. In Oblivion, spell absorption is a chance to fully absorb an incoming spell into your Magicka pool, taking no damage from it. While some Atronach birth sign builds won't want spell reflection or magic resistance, for everyone else, and even some Atronach builds, this spell absorption is going to go awesomely on top of any magic resistance, spell reflection, or spell absorption you already have, such as the resistance from the Lord sign, or enchanted gear like Spellbreaker or the Ring of Namira, both of which I cover in my recent guide on all Daedric artifacts. Overall, the Atronach stone is a great choice for all kinds of builds, even some warriors who might just want even more protection against incoming magic. Not too far west of the city of Anvil, here on the map, you can find the Lady Stone, and an awesome view worth soaking in. Choosing this stone will unlock the Lady's Warding Greater Power to fortify your willpower and endurance by 20 points for 2 minutes. As you may know, endurance increases your health significantly, and will continue to do so even when boosted past 100. Willpower also provides benefit going past 100, but of course at any level it's great if you're looking to get more total fatigue for sprinting and power attacks and so on, and regenerate your Magicka much faster in battle. 20 points is nothing to scoff at, and might be your preference if you've already got enchantments that help you resist Magicka and just want more health to tank all damage types, or more fatigue or Magicka regen. It's a pretty versatile, straightforward stone power, useful for many builds. A safe choice if no other stone power takes your fancy. I suppose for stealthy builds it might be the least useful if you don't plan on being caught, though inevitably you might be, in which case this would be a big help in sticky situations if you're mostly a glass cannon, not built for taking hits. The Lordstone was a classic that we used to love in 2013 when we started our channel with Skyrim builds. In Oblivion, you'll be able to find it north of Anvil and north of the Ayleid ruin named Ner'Ystare, here on the map. This provides you with the Ysmir's Scales Greater Power to gain 50% frost resistance and boost both heavy and light armor by 10 points for 120 seconds. I do love some of the lore references some of these powers allude to, Ysmir being a Nordic title bestowed upon several heroes throughout Tamriel's history, including the last Dragonborn. Fitting for a Nord reference, the 50% frost resistance is the same passive effect that Nords possess in-game. And if you are a Nord, then the Lordstone will take your frost resistance to a maxed out 100%. Then frost damage simply won't affect you. The light and heavy armor boosts will help to improve your armor rating, though it's nothing crazy, and they won't provide a boost if your skill level is already 100. Still, it's a really neat stone for role-playing some sort of Nord hero, and the small armor boost and big frost resistance boost have their uses. I would just personally prefer the Lady Stone or Atronach Stone if I was going for raw usefulness. For the romantics among us, the Lover Stone can be found to the east of Breville, down the river west from Periite's Shrine, here on the map. This stone will grant you the Lover's Bower Power. That's bower with a B, as in an attractive dwelling or retreat, or more likely, a lady's private apartment in a medieval hall or castle. Dictionaries aside, the Lover's Bower Greater Power provides not only a tongue twister but a 20+ boost to both personality and luck for 120 seconds. Personally, I do not think that this is as useful as some of the other stone powers we've covered. However, if you're playing a niche luck build, like one that uses Mehrunes Razor, then you may want this to boost your banishing chance, or just to win more often when placing bets at the Imperial City Arena. Behind the scenes, the luck stat boosts all skills by 40% of your luck points over 50. So if you had 50 luck points, this would take it to 70, providing you with a +8 boost to all of your skills, while the power's active, of course. It's a little random, but it's technically still doing something, even though you won't see these skill boosts in your character menu. +20 to personality will continue to boost the disposition of NPCs, even if your personality is already 100, though at that point you probably don't have much of a problem getting better prices or extracting information during quests. Due to skill points not providing benefit past 100, exceptions being athletics, acrobatics, and speechcraft, I would say this power is more useful earlier on when the +8 skill boosts from the luck increase and the extra disposition from the personality increase feel more impactful. If it suits your build, go for it, though it's far from the most effective stone power if we're talking about combat prowess. Though of course, there's more to enjoying role-playing games than combat. One very straightforward power is Magicka Manifold, provided by the Mage Stone. This stone can be found southeast of Cheydinhal and southwest of the Ayleid ruin named Haim, here on the map. As you'd expect, this is a great choice for mage builds as it will provide 50 more points of Magicka for 120 seconds. It is literally just a repeat of the mage signs plus 50 Magicka boost, though of course it is temporary. Still, with the mage sign and mage stone, you'd be able to gain a plus 100 Magicka boost for extra spellcasting proficiency, be it through sheer output of weaker spells or by allowing more use of higher cost options. On top of any racial Magicka boosts like the plus 50 Bretons get, or the plus 100 granted to High Elves, the Mage Stone is an easy pick you'd be able to enjoy at pretty much any stage of your Magic playthrough. Simple, yes, but undoubtedly useful. Now, the Ritual Stone is an interesting one. It's found north of the city of Leyawiin to the east of Fort Redmond, here on the map. Like the Ritual Birth Sign, the Ritual Stone provides 2 powers, though they are both greater powers, whereas the sign grants 1 greater and 1 lesser. The 2 greater powers from the stone are Mara's Milk and Mara's Mercy. Both restore health, though Mara's Milk restores 100 points on self, a pretty self-explanatory useful power, whereas Mara's Mercy restores 150 health on a target, helping to cultivate a healer kind of feel for your build, as you'll be able to boost any quest allies accompanying you, or followers you've chosen to have follow you around during your adventures, or even beings that you've conjured. If you did happen to choose the Ritual Birth Sign, then you could use both the Mara's Gift greater power from that to restore 200 points of your health, and then the Mara's Milk power from the stone for another 100 for a total of 300 points of health restoration without using any Magicka or potions. Of course, they can only be used once a day, but still, it's not hard to wait 24 hours between battles if you wanted to constantly have a second life available to you. If you want that extra insurance in battle, then this stone is definitely for you, and just remember you don't need to have chosen the matching birth sign, so you could still get this one while being born under a different sign like the Lord sign for 15 more points of armor rating and 15% magic resistance. You get the idea. The Serpent Stone is found southeast of Leyawiin and east of Tidewater Cave, which you'll have been to if you've done Nocturnal's quest to get the infamous skeleton key. This stone, when visited between 6 PM and 6 AM, just like the others, can grant you the Cobra's Dance power to paralyze a target for 5 seconds and damage their health for 4 points for 20 seconds for a total of 80 damage. It's pretty powerful if you're not interested in any of the more protective signs and want something more effective or useful for crowd control. Like some of the other stones we've mentioned, doubling it up with its corresponding birth sign is pretty cool, considering that the Serpent sign greater power, Serpent spell, also damages health, though for a weaker 3 points per second for 20 seconds. So you could use the birth sign power and then the stone power to put a duration damage effect on an enemy that works simultaneously, dishing out a total of 140 damage. You don't have to wait for one of these powers to finish for the other to begin. Keep in mind that the Birth Sign power also cures poison on self and dispels 90 points of a magical effect currently troubling you, which is neat, but it also damages 100 points of your fatigue, which can make you fall over if that sends it below 0. Overall, Cobra's Dance is a neat power that many builds might like, as having a paralyze up your sleeve without needing a potion or spell can turn a difficult opponent into an easy one, so long as they're not resistant to paralysis. The Shadow Stone can be found southeast of the Imperial City, east of Fort Cedrian, here on the map. Like the Shadow Sign, this provides a power that assists in stealthy endeavors, though also isn't that useful. It grants Fingernail Moon to give yourself 15% Chameleon for 120 seconds. If you're not a stealth build, you'll probably find this useless, and if you are a stealth build, you'd still want to be stacking this with other Chameleon boosts from gear, spells, or potions to actually get good use out of it. Chameleon is functionally like a weaker version of invisibility that makes you harder to detect and lets you interact with the environment and attack without losing the effect. 100% Chameleon would be like using standard invisibility, like that granted by the Shadow Birth Sign power, though both of the powers from the sign and the stone can be acquired through other means. So it's going to be best for most builds to just pick one of the other stones here. Remember, you can only have one of these Birth Sign Doomstones at a time, as acquiring a new one will replace the old one, unlike the Heavenly Doomstone powers we'll get into, which can all be collected. I just don't think the Shadowstone power is particularly great, especially considering it only lasts for 2 minutes. The Steed Stone is hiding to the west of Cheydinhal, north of the Ayleid ruin Nagastani. The name of the power, Hellride, makes it tempting. It will allow you to fortify the speed attribute and acrobatic skill by 20 points for 120 seconds once a day. Acrobatic boosts past 100 still improve your jump height, and speed boosts past 100 continue to make you move faster. Understandably, it is somewhat of a convenience stone, particularly when you consider the opportunity cost of not picking some of the other stones with more powerful effects. However, if you're just about maxing out your speed, which by the way does help in combat just by helping you move out of range of enemy attacks and into range to unleash your own a lot faster, then this might be your personal choice. Maybe there's some crazy jump you're trying to make and need the acrobatics boost, or you just want to traverse the map faster. Next up, we've got the Thief's Stone, found north of the Imperial City Prison and north of the Ayleid ruins Serpent. Choosing this stone will provide you with the Cheetah's Nip greater power, boosting your agility and luck by 20 points for 120 seconds. So plus 20 to luck provides all the same benefits we've discussed regarding the same boost from the Lover Stone. That is more successful bets at the arena, a boost to your skills equivalent to 40% of your luck points over 50, so plus 8, and an improvement to your banish chance with Mehrunes Razor. The plus 20 agility is more interesting in my opinion, considering that in the remaster, this is what determines your damage with short swords and daggers instead of strength. This would make Mehrunes Razor do more damage too, however, it won't increase damage if your agility is already 100. The same applies for bow damage, of course, which is boosted by agility as well. Agility will also increase your maximum fatigue, even past 100 agility, though not as considerably as the willpower attribute. I do prefer other stone choices, but again, this might be what you want for your specific build, though I wouldn't choose it just because you're a thief, unless it actually contributes to your playstyle. The Tower Stone is an interesting option that you may have already found if you decided to swim away from the Imperial City's waterfront district. You can see it from there. It's found here on the map, southwest of the Imperial City and west of Fort Homestead. This is another rare stone that provides 2 greater powers, the Master's Hand, which fortifies your armor skill by 20 points for 120 seconds, and the Warden Key power, which opens a hard lock on target, and it says there's a 15 feet area effect on it, which would make you think it would unlock multiple things if they were next to each other, but in my testing it seems to just unlock what you hit with it. The Master's Hand could be used to improve your outcomes when repairing your gear, but it won't give you access to the expert level improvements that take weapons and armor beyond their 100 rating if you do happen to use this power to temporarily boost into the expert range. More exciting is the opening of hard locks, which actually makes the tower sign feel even less useful, considering its greater power lets you unlock an average lock once a day, and its other reflect damage power is only of 5%. Perhaps you could get both if you have multiple things you want to unlock in a day, and you're just not that good at the security skill and don't have any alteration unlock spells, but honestly I would say that it isn't crash hot. I don't think it's worth getting. With some finesse, you can open hard locks even with a low security skill. However, look, it might be part of your role playing that you're some sort of tower build and you can just open things magically without actually using learnt spells. Anyway, considering how easy this stone is to go to, it's a fun choice to have early on to just unlock hard locks. I just think that if you know where the other stones are hiding, which you do if you're watching this video, there's probably a different power of significantly more use to your build. The final Doomstone to talk about before we move on to the Heavenly Doomstone powers is the Warrior Stone. This is located southeast of Skingrad and north of the Ayleid ruin Cylorn, here on the map. The Warcry greater power this provides fortifies strength by 20 points and boosts your blade, blunt, and hand-to-hand skills by 10 points once a day for 120 seconds. Straightforward and very useful for warrior builds before they've maxed out their damage skills and strength attribute. Do consider that the strength attribute also raises your health a bit, even past 100 strength, though weapon damage is not boosted past 100 for the strength attribute or the weapon skills. Still, for much of your playthrough as a warrior, you'd be able to use this stone to make yourself dish out a noteworthy amount of extra damage in battle, while providing a little more protection via increased health. It also increases your carry weight, even past the benefits of 100 strength, which can come in handy if you're a bit over encumbered, but want to fast travel back somewhere to sell your loot, and then this boost manages to just allow it. Interestingly, your shield bash damage also continues to rise as strength goes past 100, so if you've reached expert block and therefore have unlocked the bash, then this strength boost will always help. I wouldn't knock the warrior stone, though once I become a high level warrior, I'd probably rather one of the stones that help keep me alive. Before we move on to the Heavenly Doomstones, I do want to tell you of one special advantage that all these stones provide. If you're familiar with custom spellmaking and enchanting in Oblivion, then you may know that the effects you're able to access are limited to spells you know and have the skill level to cast, as well as powers that you've acquired even from your racial choice or birth sign. Well, these magical stone powers also apply, so you'll be able to use them to unlock effects such as Open Lock, Absorb Spell, Resist Frost, Chameleon, Fortify Skill, Fortify Attribute, and so on. If you replace one Doomstone with another, you'll lose the ability to use its effects when enchanting and spellmaking. However, what you can do is select a Doomstone, do the enchanting or spell creation you desire with its related effect, then just go back and replace your stone choice with the one you mainly want for your build. When it comes to the Heavenly Doomstones, they can all be collected and won't cancel each other out. Just make sure you select them between 6 PM and 6 AM still. The limitation they do have on unlocking them is a stat called Renown, which you can't see in your menu, but it's calculated by adding your Fame and Infamy points together. Fame and Infamy is not the most important system in Oblivion, and mostly affects your disposition with certain characters and your eligibility to access shrine blessings and a few other little things. You achieve points of fame or infamy through completing certain tasks in-game, such as main story quests, faction quests, Daedric Prince quests, and many side quests. So when it comes to Renown, the more you've done in your playthrough, both good and bad, the better. The first Heavenstone is the Jone Stone, referring to the lesser moon of the two, also known as Secunda. The Jone Stone is found north of Skingrad, east of the Shrine of Sanguine, here on the map. It provides Jone's Shadow, a greater power which makes one invisible for 120 seconds, while fortifying Sneak, Acrobatics, and Athletics for 30 points. A message on screen will say, the hero's fate is etched into Jone's face when you select the stone and get the power. To be eligible, you will need a Renown score of 10, which is pretty easy to reach after you've been doing various quests in the game. Considering the power can be acquired by almost anyone with no opportunity cost, whether or not it's worth it to get is less important than if it's worth it to use. Understandably, this one will be the most useful for stealth builds, even if you already have invisibility. The boost to your sneak and being able to perform such sneaking faster is definitely good. While sneak won't gain any benefits above skill level 100, the acrobatics and athletics skills will, making this something you could use in the early or end game as a thief or assassin. 30 points is definitely a nice boost on top of any other boosts you might have from enchanted gear, and you could combine this with the Hellride power from the Steed stone to just boost up the movement speed of any build. Next up is the Aetherius stone. It is found south of Bleak Flats Cave, northwest of Skingrad, here on the map. The Aetherius stone provides the Gates of Aetherius power to once a day fortify your Magicka by 50 points and gain 20% magic resistance for 120 seconds. A message on screen reads, the stars in their courses mark the hero's doom upon Aetherius. It's a great power to have for any build that wants to just add 20% more magic resistance on top of any other protective benefits you may have. Mages, of course, will get the most benefit here, and you could even use this alongside the Mage Stone to get another 50 points of Magicka. It can all really add up to be a big help. You will need a Renown score of 20 for this one, however, again, this isn't that hard to achieve if you've been climbing the ranks of factions, playing the main story, closing Oblivion Gates, and doing different side quests. We then come to the Jode stone, referring to Massa, the larger of the two moons. It's found east of Anvil and southeast of Troll Candle Camp, here on the map. Text on screen reads, "On Jode's face the hero's doom is traced," and you receive the Jode's Blood Greater Power to fortify health by 40 points, and Blade, Blunt and Hand to Hand by 20 points for 120 seconds. It could stack well with the Warrior Stone we mentioned. Having no opportunity cost, it's helpful for any warrior who hasn't already got their chosen damage skill to 100. The 40 points of health are somewhat useful for any build, though I can't see it as a huge part of one's playstyle if you're a mage, though it could remain a backup emergency power to use if you ever needed 40 points of health urgently. You'll need 30 Renown to unlock this one, which isn't super hard to achieve, but will of course take a bit longer than the previous one. The Renown scores do get higher and higher from here, and I will tell you a tip that if it fits your roleplaying, can grant you instant access to any of these stones. If you're willing to complete the Thieves Guild faction storyline, then you'll be able to unlock the Grey Cowl of Nocturnal, and use it for the various thief-related benefits it brings. However, because it makes your Infamy 100, you'll instantly have 100 Renown, which is enough to unlock any of these stones. You can still use the powers after removing the cowl, making it an easy way to access them early for certain builds. Next up is the Sithian Stone, a reference to Sithis, the Void, the deity that the Dark Brotherhood sends souls to, and the entity representing the primordial state of chaos. The stone itself is found north of Kvatch, northeast of Fort Linchal, here on the map. The hero's doom is figured in Sithian mystery, appears on screen as you receive the Sithian web greater power, so long as your renown score is 40 or higher. For 120 seconds, you'll have your illusion, marksman, mercantile, security, and speechcraft fortified by 20 points. I guess any type of build could use this before haggling and buying and selling goods to get a better outcome, or to make it easier to raise disposition through the speech minigame or through bribing. Fortify security 20 points of course makes lockpicking easier, but it's not that useful in my opinion. However, the illusion and marksman boosts would be useful for anyone wanting to reduce illusion casting cost and increase bow damage. There's no opportunity cost here really, however neither marksman nor illusion will benefit past the 100 skill level, which they might be close to reaching if they're your most used skills by the time you have 40 renown to unlock this power. Magnus fled Mundus during its creation, and he is known as the god of magic, carrying a great association with the sun itself. The Magnus stone is found northeast of Leowyn and east of Haunted Mine, here on the map. If you have 50 renown, it can grant you the Skein of Magnus greater power to fortify all your magical skills including alchemy by 15 points for 120 seconds. That's alchemy, alteration, conjuration, destruction, illusion, mysticism, and restoration. The children of Magnus chart the hero's doom in their paths. Unless you just want an extra boost to potion creation on top of any others, this is mostly just going to benefit mages. It's a broad boost across all skills, which is alright if you use a variety of magic schools, though plus 15 isn't particularly crazy, so while it's helpful, it's not going to feel like anything next level, especially if you only use 1 or 2 magic schools. Again, you could just say why not if you have it, as it doesn't cost anything to use. However, I will say that by the time your renown is 50, if you're not using the cowl to unlock this, perhaps it won't feel as impactful as it could have at earlier levels. The Shezarr stone can be found northwest of Leowyn and north of the Ayleid ruin Telepi, here on the map. Shezarr is the Cyrodiilic version of Lorkhan, Shor to the Nords, and is considered the god of man. You'll need 60 renown to have the Shade of Shezarr shroud the hero's doom. The Shield of Shezarr greater power grants you plus 20 to block, heavy armor, light armor, and armorer for 120 seconds, as well as 10% spell reflection. Extra spell reflection is always welcome, although block, your armor skills, and armorer skill will only benefit here if you haven't maxed them out. That said, armor skills and block can take longer to level, unless you've been specifically grinding them, so they might still be able to receive a boost here even though a 60 renown requirement implies you've been playing for longer. Considering you can't repair gear in battle, I'm not sure why they've put armor here, though I suppose if you kill all the enemies well within 120 seconds, then you could more skillfully repair your gear afterwards. It's a decent power for warriors, it's just that it's locked behind 60 Renown, and by then you may mostly just enjoy it for the extra 10% spell reflection more than the skill boosts. Finally, we come to the Dragonstone. Dragons being symbolic of the Empire itself, its dragonborn emperors, and their pact with Akatosh, the Time God, north of Cheydinhal and northeast of Lake Arius Caverns. Here on the map, you will find a Heavenly Doomstone requiring 70 Renown, the largest requirement of the lot. The dragon dreams, but the hero gleams in his eye. And you unlock the Dragon Dream Greater Power to fortify Magicka by 50, health by 40, and fatigue by 100 points for 120 seconds. Look, who wouldn't want that? A neat stat boost across the board is great for any build, and again, because there's no opportunity cost, like there is with the Birthsigns Doomstones, it's technically all upside. More health, more spellcasting, more dodging, sprinting, weapon swinging, and power attacks. You can't really fault this one, though it may understandably take some time to unlock. Due to the straightforward nature of this stone, there's not a whole lot to say about it. It's not crazy interesting, it obviously helps, though some endgame characters might not view it as anything special, especially those who have mastered Restoration, or are just otherwise incredibly powerful. Subscribe for more Oblivion Remastered content, hit like if you're loving this game. Thank you so much for your support, we're loving this as much as you are. My name's Michael, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again very soon.